Hey guys, I just want to give you a quick shout out, let you know at 5 o'clock today we're going to be doing that damn tattoo contest right here in this room. So if you guys have tattoos or like tattoos or want to see some cool ass tattoos, this is going to be the place to be. There's 9 different categories, it's free to enter. If you go down by the events room, you can find Scott Ciesielski with ABFX. He's got all the sign up stuff, but just look for all the big cool frames because he makes some really cool picture frames. But yeah, that's 5 o'clock today. And we'll get things started underway in just a moment. Michael, take it away.
Sure. Good job, Michael.
So how's everyone doing? My name's Mike, and my counterpart JC. We're from the East Coast Horror Group. This is an extreme honor for us to be moderating the largest thing panel in the Midwest. So without further ado,
indeed. We're going to bring everybody up on stage.
All right, without further ado, we have the Thing cast reunion. We have Keith David, Tom Waits, Ricky Masur, All right, fellas, speaking of cold, let's talk about where you shot in British Columbia.
Okay, test check. MasterCard. Okay, you want us to talk about British Columbia?
Yeah, I'd love to just get your take on your first introduction, shooting into the Stewart, and, what you just, your first impression was.
The end of the movie. But the rednecks.
I mean, getting there.
Getting there. I remember that being a trip. We had a notorious bus ride. And that was at night, though, right?
Yeah, it was at night.
From the town to Prince Rupert or something like that, or from Prince Rupert to Stewart, something like that. Yeah, and in the middle of the night, the bus kind of runs off the curb, and the next thing you know, we were like, oh shit, and we have to push the bus back onto the road.
It was a long way down.
And it was a long way down. Tell me about the dude with the bus driver. The bus driver, when the bus slid, and the guy, I think the guy was named Joe. Somebody. Yeah. We were all on the bus. We had just drank some of that. We had a bunch of Labatt's beer in Canada. He's like one beer and you want to fight somebody, we all in the bus and the bus slides like Keith said, and then all of a sudden they asked Joe. They said, "Joe, are you all right?" And I swear Joe had a cigarette like this. And Keith said, "Look down." I remember Keith said, "Look down," and tell him how long that drop was on the side of the cliff of the bus. It was a Wile E. Coyote that drop. So we're glad we didn't do that.
So what happened is that Kurt, because we were really scared, and we weren't laughing when the bus, because we were in a whiteout. And Kurt said, okay, nobody move. And start with the people in the back of the bus and get on your hands and knees, and so we don't tip the bus. And I was all the way in the back, as is my custom. And we were partying, and all of a sudden all the partying stopped dead, and it was really frightening, because a false move and we wouldn't be here, So,
I would have been here because I wasn't on the bus.
The movie would have been called Nothing. Nothing. Yes, Kurt was Willie McReady. It would have been called Clark and the Dogs. Yeah, he was talking about Stewart, British Columbia, wherever we were, man. And I remember the first night. No brothers, and but they did work in a coal mine. And we go to this little bar that's on, in a little town called Hyder, Alaska, which is right next to Prince Rupert. Stewart.
2 miles away.
It was up there. And I remember talking to some redneck guy who I didn't know he had a gun. And I was on one. Hey man, you know, yeah man, we love y'all up here, man. It's glad to be up in here, man. We just having fun, everything. And keep would tell the story because he told it at dinner. Go ahead.
Well, the guy pulled out a 45 about this wide. Somebody better tell this guy to get his hands off me. And we had to drag his ass out of there.
So they have never seen a black person in person before. So they said to TK, hey, can you walk?
See a bear.
They said, can you walk like they do on TV? And TK said, no man, I'm from Beverly Hills.
No. He said that the only black person that he knew, I'm not bullshitting, was George Jefferson. So I said,
So Hyder, Alaska was 2 miles from Stewart, British Columbia. And there was a border station between the two, about halfway between. Everybody from Stewart, where all the liquor is government controlled in Canada and very expensive, would just walk or drive over to Hyder and buy all their liquor and go to drink there. And there were 7 bars in Hyder, Alaska, and it had a population of about 15 people. And they all worked in the bars. And the big one was the Hyder Inn, where they had a tree that was half the length of this room, which had been cut down, split down the middle, turned over, and the cut part was polished. That was the bar. It was huge. You remember that? And then when you went to Hyder, you had to stop at the bar. You had to go into the bar and get Hyderized. You guys remember that? Now they all got Hyderized.
Hyderized. Let's get Hyderized.
So they all got Hyderized at the same time. You did, right? No, you didn't. But everybody else did. That's right. You did. But you talked about, because I got Hyderized later because I came up a little late.
Wait, Hyderized, they would give you this liquor called Everclear, which is like, you know Everclear?
191.
And so they stand in front of you and say,
In a juice glass.
you're about to be Hyderized, you have to drink it all in one gulp. If you spill any, you've got to buy everybody in the bar.
And you can't smell it.
You can't spill nothing. So
You can't
Kurt,
throw up, either.
so Kurt thought that I couldn't drink. So he got me the Everclear and everything.
You're Jewish.
And- So I took this thing and I took it down. I looked at me and I, see, I can drink, man. What's going on? It was unbelievable. Just burn your throat.
Then you take the glass, you turn it upside down on the bar,
Right.
and the bartender would swirl it around, lift it up, hit it with a match, and would go poof.
It can really mess your throat up. Matter of fact, I got Hyderized. And when I took my Hyderized shot, I was the last one because I said it's a setup. So when I took my Hyderized, it would just burn my throat, and I immediately started sounding like Red Fox, like, look at you, son. God dang it. It was burning, but I gotta tell you, man, what I remember about going to the hotel the first night we got up there was a lot of people had a lot of teeth missing. And there was this young kid, I swear, he must have been about 22 years old, but he looked 60. Because all they was doing up there was drinking and working in the coal mine, but they're probably some of the most friendliest people that I've ever met. But it was amazing. Canada was just an experience for me. Canada and Alaska was an experience, but you know, it was kind of cold. You know, I gotta love old Canada.
So getting to when you guys were actually shooting the film, you know, it's an all-male ensemble cast, and as things started to digress, the paranoia started to kick into gear. Talk about how you guys filmed that. Was there actually a little bit of hatred between you guys with spending so much time together? How did that play out?
Well, we rehearsed this movie, which was very unusual. We had 2 weeks of rehearsal, and John had never done it before, and when we finished, he said he would never do it again. because the actors, you know, we came in and we started really talking about who these guys were and how they interacted with each other. Keith and I figured this thing out, which wasn't in the script originally. We were the two big men, and we decided we really, because he was a little skinny guy then, we decided that we just hated each other, you know, and we had a lot of stuff that that was in the script, and then we shot it all in California on stage in Universal, and then we shut down for like 3 months while they went up and waited for the snow to fall and for the snowpack to build up in British Columbia. And during that time, they made a rough assemblage of all the stuff we'd shot. We'd shot probably 80%, 85% of the movie at that point. And John sits down and he looks at the rough assemblage, including all these really tense scenes between the guys inside, because we were all trapped. That's what the story was about, was we couldn't get out. And he looked at this, he said, this is a boring movie about a bunch of guys standing around inside talking. And so he rewrote a third of the movie and reshot it up in Canada. And a bunch of the stuff that we did that we really loved, because it was so intense and meaty, got moved outside, and it changed. It wasn't, because all of a sudden we could go outside and live. And originally the movie was, if we went outside, we died. So he did it cleverly, because he turned that windstorm where they go out to find Brimley and all that, and he gets lost on the line, and they get locked, and McCready gets locked out and all that. That was where they inserted the part about, if you go out now, you're going to die. Right? But earlier, when, you know, I know I'm human, you know, we're all standing around, I said, we're dead, what are we doing out here?
Well, I remember when we were shooting the movie, as the movie started progressing, we really were kind of like, wouldn't trust we always would ask the question, could he be the thing? Is he the thing? We knew what could happen in the script, but we were really preparing as if, listen, I don't know, I think you are, no, maybe him, no. But I can actually tell you that when we were shooting that movie on Universal lot, that it was when they would shut the lights down and we go to lunch, it was really scary in there. I mean, it was not like, oh, we're going to do this movie. We were really kind of like, it was kind of spooky in there.
Well, I have I think, an interesting story about me and Clennon, David Clennon and I. We had a scene where we were talking together, and we had about a page, half a page of dialogue. And we rehearsed the scene, and John Carpenter goes, listen, you guys, I got to cut that. I can't use it in the movie. And I know I had a lot of text, so I was very upset. And David, you know, being a sympathetic actor, we both went around the corner and were like, that's so that's so important. And David's like, yeah, man, how could he do that to us? That's just, what a fucking asshole. I forgot that I was mic'd.
It was a hard answer in the movie. You was always doing that method.
He comes around the corner and he goes, hey guys, I just heard every word you said. And mostly it was me. And I was so mortified. Like the blood drained from my face. And I remember David said to me, well, after a few hours, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I mean, it's not like I can say I didn't do it. And David gave me a line that I've never forgotten. He said, there's always got to be a little mutiny on every set. And that stuck with me the rest of my life. And there does, in a way, it's healthy. And that was, but I wrote him a note later and I apologized, and I hope he forgave me.
Well, you know, he came off the Warriors and shit. So he came in there like a gangster. And we all trying to figure our characters out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the characters that you see, they were written, but we added certain things to build our character. Because I remember when I was bringing Nalls, I was like, man, the dude has to wear a headband, you know, so wore the headband, and then I was like, man, look, it's boring up here. I'm on some roller skates. Roller skates was happening back then. And I really knew how to skate, so, you know, there was this one scene where I had to, you know, flip out the radio. I remember that move. I remember that move. It was a cold-ass move. Remember that move? That move was like, hey, in the kitchen, we'll step it on, we'll, hit, bump, refrigerator, turn around, radio, pow, back about the camera. That was a cold move. I remember that.
Something that TK mentioned earlier, you know, wondering who might be the thing. Did you guys ever speculate whenever you guys were shooting the movie, if you were the thing, if you would know? If you know you were being assimilated, would you know?
I thought it was Palmer.
Everybody else talked about it until I went to sleep. We wasted a lot of time talking about that.
We had all read the script, so it was kind of, there was a spoiler for us. We knew who wasn't it. And,
No, I don't mean as far as character. I mean, if you were there,
I can tell you
and
what.
and the thing took a hold of you, would you know it?
Well, actually, that was a big question on the set.
Behind your desk.
We'd all be standing around saying, if you're the thing, do you know you're the thing? Or if you've been absorbed, do you...
did you guys see the movie? The thing kills the thing that it duplicates.
They was getting too,
It kills it.
they was getting too deep. I was like, I know I'm not the thing, and I'm whooping everybody's ass who is the thing. I know I ain't the thing. I thought it was Palmer, because I was like, anybody that smoke weed like that is a monster. He didn't have joints. He had like joints like that big. Shit.
We would sit around and have these conversations, like David said, and Wilfred Brimley would sit there, and one day he just went, oh, I ain't and we went, what? And he said, you guys all think this movie's about you. You haven't figured out yet. This ain't about us. It's about the rubber guy. This is not about us. And that's true.
Wilfred Brimley, now, in my acting career, there's two actors that, one I really didn't particularly care for, because his ass was a redneck, under the table, and that was Kenneth McMillan in Runaway Train. He's an asshole, but I always thought that Wilfred Brimley had a little redneck in him, but it was a cool redneck, because he really wouldn't open up. He was friendly, but he wouldn't open up. Yeah, just leave me alone. We're just gonna do it. I said we're gonna rehearse a scene and just stare at you. And there was a scene. I think I did a scene with him when I went into the shack or something. It was a while back. But the guy was just sitting there, and I said, this guy is really that guy, whoever cast him. And then from then on, I would just see him in the house. I said, that's Wilfred Brimley, and he's a great actor. God bless his soul. He's a good people. One of my favorites.
So out of the many themes associated, wait, Keith, I gotta ask, nobody's talking about people actually believe in this kind of stuff? I've heard you in interviews. You actually worried that some of these horror fans actually believe in this shit?
I'm sure some of you do. And you know who you are. I've been at, there are some guys that are so, such avid fans and buffs. They will ask you, in that scene, after the head went this way, what were you thinking about when you said it? It's like, I don't know. It was 30 years ago. I don't remember. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that was perfect. That's such a specific question, more of a general one. You know, there's many themes associated with this film: paranoia, hopelessness, isolation. You know, are the top three. What do you guys believe is the one that sticks out the most?
This isn't exactly responsive to that, but I just, when the original novella was written, Who Goes There, was really at the very first blooming of communist paranoia in this country. The McCarthy era was really, really intense. And what he wrote about was the enemy within, the enemy who couldn't understand, couldn't know who the enemy was, if the enemy could be anyone. And it was out to kill you and out to take you over. That was the original novella. Then they made the first film, and by then it was a little later, and they made a more general film where they took that element completely out of it. Because I don't know whether it was philosophical or what, but they made it not about the enemy within, but they made it this external thing that was coming down to get you, and in a way, maybe that was more Korean War oriented, because there was really an external thing that the U.S. perceived itself as was fighting, which was, you know, international communism in Korea. But then by the time we made this movie in the 80s, everybody who grew up with in our core audience for this film, they weren't alive when the novella was written. They weren't alive in the period when this kind of paranoia existed. So it wasn't, it had lost that I don't know how to put it, but it had lost that edge. Because if you go back and you read the original novella, it's just all about this terror of, very little happens in terms of, you know, destructive stuff and all. It's just this terror of not knowing where the enemy is. But by the time this came along, it became externalized in this combination of the two, where it was internal but also would become external. I don't know why I'm babbling about this, but for me that was the most.
You're getting it off your chest.
But then we shot this in 80 and 81 when the AIDS crisis was just beginning to really bloom in everybody's mind. So for me, you know, it was in 1937 when the original novella was written. We were finding out what Stalin was doing. By 51, McCarthy was pushing his trials. When we got to 81, the AIDS crisis was breaking out in this country. So there's always been, it seems to me, coincidentally, some kind of virus that's infecting us that everybody's afraid of, and they get scared of each other, and they're looking to see how they're going to survive. And I thought that this touched on that.
And then they write scary movies.
Well, when I speaking of the old script, then, you know, I read the old book and then read the new script. And what got me excited about this movie is that I had a habit of always thumbing through my scripts, right, finding out when am I going to get it. Like when I did Southern Comfort, I said, oh, brother, the first one to go, right? So when I looked at the theme script, I was kind of, oh, no. Oh, he's still in the movie, but Charles, he's still in the movie. Uh-oh, the brothers is past goddamn halftime. Uh-oh, what? Shit, the brothers is at the end. God. Because I will go down in history as the first black man, me and Keith, to be in a horror film without them killing us while the opening credits are rolling. And I told Truman Foster that. I was like, look, when they asked me, they said, oh yeah, man, I had a meeting with John Carpenter in Universal. You know, I was coming up with this film, and I'm sitting there with the detective. He said, yes, it's a horror film called Thing. I said, man, I don't even know why I'm sitting up in this meeting. You know you guys gonna kill the brother. And they just smiled and stuff, you know. And I guess, you know, a lot of people have been asking me the question for 30 years. What happened to you in the Thing? Well, I'm gonna let you in on what happened. Okay. Now, from what I hear, they said that the movie was going a little bit over budget, they ran out of money, and they wasn't gonna do a big death scene with me. So they told me to walk down the bottom where the thing comes out the ground and goes toward Kurt. and walk down there and act like you hear something and then just walk in the room. So I walked in the room. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to YouTube this, and I'm going to do the continuation where I come out the room into the snow and say, what happened? Where did everybody go?
You know, to give you the, I guess, the real picture of it, you have these actors from New York, and we were, you know, much younger then, and trying to make our way, and trying to make a name for ourselves, and we're in this room, and John really was not into filmmaking in that sense, right? He was a filmmaker that made movies, but he really wasn't that. He would tell you himself, you know, acting is your thing. You know, I film it. And after a while, at least I know I kind of drove him crazy because I kept saying, well, why am I doing this? And why am I doing that? He's like, well, do you have to have a motivation for everything? And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm an actor. That's what I have to know why I'm doing it. And after a while, you know, he really got sick of it. And, you know, one time we were talking and he walked by and he said, what are you guys talking about? Your motivation? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I'll tell you what your motivation is, your paycheck. Now leave me alone. But one thing that was interesting that came out of it, despite all of the, you know, because for him it was very difficult. But think of something you're not used to doing and then make yourself do it for 2 weeks. And he's listening to us and he put up with us and he was very patient, you know. But one day I came in and I said, listen, I want to change the character's name from Simmons to Windows. And I put these glasses on and he went, okay, Windows, yeah, I like that. And then everybody started calling me Windows. So it's something really good.
No, we didn't. You asked us to. You said, can you all please call me Windows? And we all looked at him.
I remember that.
What? This is
Okay.
Windows and Mac.
We're in a dark stage, on a sound stage, just a table and all of us. Can you all please call me Windows? He puts on these glasses and we're going like, whatever.
Well, you know, God, you know, we all, you know what was amazing now that I look back at this film, and I probably, you know, seen this film plenty of times, more than I've ever experienced it today in the past, but and when I look at it is that each actor that was in this movie, man, I gotta tell you, tremendous, and everyone had their own personality. It was just like, no one was like the other person. And God bless Charlie Hallahan, who, man, I love him, man. Charlie was like, man, Charlie was like the quarterback, man. He was like Ben Roethlisberger, man. Until his head fell off. And I remember that day when they brought the amputee and they used the real amputee. I seen a dude, okay, I'm gonna talk about it, but I seen a dude come up to me, high-fiving me with nubs and shit. Hey man, you know we're gonna be working together. So what the hell is you, man? I'm just gonna be putting my hand in the dude's chest.
No, this poor man was in makeup for like 4 hours because they had to make him look like Dysart, so they put this Dick Dysart mask on him, and then they had to make his arms, which were, you know, which he had lost up to here, look like they were bloody stumps, and he had all these tubes running through him, and so they could fire the blood out there and everything. And we're all walking around. I don't know. This is how I remember it. We're all walking around going, "This is horrible. This is horrible." And then also we find out the guy lost his arms in an industrial accident, which was essentially exactly like what he was going to be doing. And we're all going, so I think a few of us at various points went over to him and went, "Hey, how's it going, man? How is this for you? Is this okay?" And he was going, "This is great. This is so great. I can't wait. This is so, I hope I do it well." You know, he was so sweet about it.
I had just arrived in Hollywood, and when I saw this guy, he looked exactly like Dysart.
Oh, yeah.
And they made him up, and I walked in on the scene and saw the guy. I thought it was Dysart at first, and then I realized it wasn't. But it looked, and when he did the stunt, and his arm stayed in the body, and he pulled him up, the blood was squirting out, and I saw this guy that was an exact double of Dysart. I thought, they can get anything they want out here. It was amazing. I thought they didn't even need act. They could just find somebody exactly what you wanted. It was my first experience with just how deep Hollywood's hands go into the world.
When we did that scene, one thing I like about John Carpenter
It's like, I watch how people die in movies and stuff. Charlton Heston was the best. When he get killed, he just grabbed shit. Just for 5 minutes. Just grab. You know how to get it right now. But what John Carpenter would do is like, when somebody would get it, like the dude, when Dysart went in the chest and the arms, we thought he'd say cut, but that blood kept going, and he'd say, wiggle your arms, wiggle your arms. I was like, enough, please wiggle. And when he got it, I was telling him today at the table, I said, remember that scene when you got burnt up, remember? And they had this dummy that looked like him, like this. And they had these wires, but you couldn't see them. But when the guy got on fire, we were like, okay, that's a wrap. John said, keep the camera rolling and move those legs. So I love John Carpenter. True realism, man. Director, man. Realism, man.
I have to ask, though, I mean, as far as you guys, talking about the special effects, what about the makeup? I mean, just sitting in that chair, doing the makeup, being in a studio, it's damn hot. It's like, what, 100 degrees outside in LA? You go back and it's like 30 degrees cooled off so they can make it look like it's Antarctica. What was that process like, just sitting in the chair going from hot to cold, putting hours worth of makeup on? We're starting
I
right
don't
here.
believe most of us had to do it.
Not most of us.
Till the end.
It was a little easier than that for some of us because before we started work on the film, they just did life masks of us. And then when we had to do the transformations, we got to go home, and they did the transformations after the. Is this going to spoil it for anybody? No. But so it was. So we didn't really spend a lot of time.
No, we actually.
Not all of us. Anyway.
I think actually, very few, almost all of all the transformations, because there's no CGI in this movie. It's all rubber and Rob Bottin, shout out to him. No one will ever do that again because no one will ever have to do that again. But no one will ever do that again. And I just want to mention one other thing since we're talking about the scene where Dysart and Charlie die. So David asked me to tell this story. So we're standing in there and we're shooting the sequence, the follow-up where the head comes off. Now obviously, while we're in there, the head's not coming off. Charlie's there on the table and he needed his head. We're playing, it's all the reactions of us, looking at this and looking at that, one thing and another. And then the best line in the movie, David.
Palmer, I think, is the first one to see the head walking out of the room. And then sometime between the first version of the script and the shooting script that we used up, when did we shoot that scene? That was down in Universal City. That line turned up in the script. Everybody out in the audience is watching this tour de force transformation and probably pretty scared and thinking, how the hell did they do that? And somebody on screen says what a lot of people are thinking, you gotta get something in it. Right. And so that line turned up after our rehearsal.
Right.
Right.
It came up in rehearsal.
And so John did a camera setup and a camera blocking to shoot that part of the scene where Palmer notices the car going, and then Windows turns around, and then Kurt turns around.
And shooting all these reaction shots.
After Palmer says, "You gotta be fucking kidding." And John got the shot with the setup.
With the storyboard that John had created beforehand.
Right, that he had designed, and he said, "Next,
Yeah,
that's
we're moving
it.
out of here."
Cut, next
And I-
setup, or we're through." And I thought, that's fine, we're ready to move on. But Richard Masur approached
With-
John, I believe,
Yes.
or went up to him, or had a
With tremendous high dudgeon, tremendous high dudgeon,
Yeah.
I said,
And he
you
remembered
didn't
better.
shoot Clennon saying the line. He said, no, I'm gonna be over here. I said, oh no, you can't leave here and not shoot Clennon saying the line. He said, no, look, yeah, and he shows me on the storyboard. I said, I don't give a flying fuck about the storyboard. You can't not, I said, we're here, shoot him. He goes, oh, all right. And he does. And so, of course, it's the best moment in the entire movie is this man's face looking at that and going, he's got to be fucking How, you can't imagine this movie without that moment. So, yes, John, great with keep the blood going, but not always great with where the laughs are, because he was completely willing to sacrifice that to his vision. And that's the other thing that I think was interesting for John and made him a better director, because I think this is the best thing John's ever done, far and away. And I think what made him a better director on this film was that he was constantly being challenged and pushed by all of us, but also by Kurt also. I mean, Kurt had done a lot of stuff, and his direction changed as a result of this movie. He became much more open to more interesting possibilities. Things weren't as cleanly delineated. They became blurry.
When I went to audition for this film, I had gone to USC for undergraduate school, so I came in and met John. I didn't know him at USC, but I said, oh, I hear you went to USC. He said, yeah, I got out there. I said, did you direct any theater? Because a lot of the cast were theater actors. Richard went to Yale, and so did David, and Keith, and Tommy went to Juilliard, I went to Yale. Hey, where did you?
I trained in LA Actors Theater.
There you go.
Hey, and Donald Moffat was the guy there.
And he was at the Royal Academy, Tom. So a lot of us were theater actors, and we were used to rehearsing, as was said. But so I said to John, oh, you were at SC, did you ever direct any theater? And he went, no. And I said, well, how the fuck are you supposed to direct me? And David Foster, the producer, looked at me like what the fuck does this guy think? I just lost a job. And John, there was a moment, and then he smiled at me, and he hired me. I think he hired me because I said that to him.
He was married to Adrienne Barbeau. He knew all about it.
In any case, a lot of what we rehearsed, in the 2 weeks that we did rehearse, did subtly, as Richard said, show up on the screen in the relationships between the actors and the different responses to what was going on there. And it's true, I think this was John's best movie, and it was a movie that was in progress as we were making it. The cinematography, Dean and John and Rob were developing ways cinematically to capture what they had in mind. And John kept working on the script, and things just were in flux through the whole thing. And it turned out that once it was trusted that this was going to turn out the way it did, and John said to me when he saw the head work on screen, he said he knew the movie was going to work. When he saw that head walk away from Charlie when it popped out, because it was all happening in front of him, Rob designed that, John went, oh my God, this is going to work. This is really going to work. And I really do think, as an honor to John and the whole creative team, it was to that point, and still in my mind, was his best one.
I think it's best thing down. I think we started gelling as a group.
As a group, was a scene where they were taking people's blood, and we were in that room, We had nothing to do. We were in that room for a while.
Because I was dead by then. Me too. Where they started gelling.
Yeah. Well, it's peanut butter and jelly. I was the peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly. It was peanut butter and jelly. But I gotta tell you, getting prepared for this movie was like, we worked our butts off, man. You know, I was like, man, do I really want to stay as an actor, man? Because this stuff is hard. You know, I remember one night we were up in doing a night shoot, and it must have got about, what, 40 below? 30 below. 30 or 40 below. I'm going like, damn, you get lost out here, and wouldn't nobody give a damn. You'd be a popsicle. It was just like, it was crazy. But I gotta tell you, that was funny for me. And Eddie Murphy always tells me, he says, man, that scene where you guys are tied up in the chair. You know, when whoever edited that scene, man, I was laughing because they cut my finger, right, and I couldn't even say nothing. It just, you know, they thought it was me, and then all of a sudden, cut, and then I'm with a gun on somebody, you know. So, hey, I love the thing. I appreciate y'all being thing fans, and we know that, you know, we now know that we did this not for us, but we did it for generations and generations to come. And, you know,
Before we take just a few questions from the audience and wrap this up, Keith, I'm not sure when you guys filmed this with Kurt, but the final scene, two beaten men that have just been through hell, how did you and Kurt prepare for that scene, that interaction with each other? Not knowing who the thing was, knowing you guys were going to die?
Memory being selective.
The 30-year question that I felt that.
I just remember, you know, it was after it was a 5-camera setup. It was 3 o'clock in the morning because we had to wait for all those cameras to set up. We watched 5 mushroom clouds. You know, 2 of them didn't work or something because that's why they had 5. I remember 2 of one of them or a couple of them didn't work. But with 5 cameras, you got 5 angles of the couple that did work, and that was a big thing. I remember spending the night out there telling jokes in that tent, watching, you know, waiting for, and I kept wanting to see the aurora borealis. Anyway, like I said, it wasn't me, and we did ask, you know, should one of us play it as. So, you know, I can't tell you the one he took. We took 2, we shot 2 endings, one knowing it was one of us, and we did it twice because we decided it was me once, it was him once, and then we did it once, which is the way I think it finally ended up, where it wasn't me, but it really could be one of us because we don't know it if we know, if we are.
I'm just wondering how you guys felt after the movie flopped. I mean, it didn't do very well. Now it's a classic. Everybody loves it. But at the time, it was considered a flop. How did you guys feel about
Universal
that?
dunk?
It was not.
Yeah, Universal.
Universal.
It was a weird thing. You know, first of all, no one asked me, but I thought it was a horrible idea to bring it out in the summertime. I thought when I read it, it was a winter film. It should have come out like either Easter or really November. It was really a pre-Thanksgiving movie in my mind. When they decided to bring it out in the summer with Poltergeist and all of that, I thought,
no, it's because Cat People, which was also Universal Film, was way behind schedule, wasn't ready, and the thing was ready, and they threw it out there with no preparation. They dumped it. And You know, it was a horrible, the poster, with all due respect to anybody who we signed the poster for, with the thing coming out of the, you know, the starburst in the face, it's a horrible poster, it has nothing to do with the movie.
In fact, it looks more like the first one than it does.
Yeah, all the later posters are much better, and they just, it was...
Do you think that Universal thought that the film might do well based on just piggybacking on Carpenter's previous picture?
Oh, I'm sure they were counting on John's rap but because this wasn't a John Carpenter film in that sense, it wasn't, there was nothing slasher about this movie at all. It was a science fiction movie. Again, I'm always amazed that we get invited to these things, because we're not a horror movie in the strictest sense of the word. We're a science fiction movie with a monster in the middle of it, you know. But I don't think. The story I was told at the time, Dave, was that we that this was purely about. If you remember, they were shooting Cat People the same time we were shooting at Universal.
Yeah, but they had those lions and tigers by my dressing room.
Right, exactly. And you know, it was this Ciesielski, who was the hottest, the hottest woman in the world at that moment, and everybody thought, you know, that was, they expected that to be their giant film. Well, of course, nobody ever saw that movie again after that. It was, and I don't know that it flopped so much as it never found an audience because they never really released it.
Also, they released it, E.T. opened the week before we opened.
And E.T. ships to everywhere.
Just washed over the world, I mean. And then the week after we opened, Poltergeist opened, which was like a scary movie, and we got lost in the middle because they did not advertise.
The other reason they should have held off, if they cared about trying to make it work, they never would have released a science fiction movie at that moment in time.
Well, one thing, I knew that the movie, listen, you know, whether it was hit or not, I just knew based off of what I saw and based off the work that was in, whether it was a hit or not, I was like, man, this is a great movie, right? But I knew for a fact that this movie, I knew that it was going to grow on people, because, you know, it's like fine wine, you understand what I'm saying? The more it ages, it gets better and better and better. And each time you look at the thing, you find something. That's why they did that other movie, the thing with the prequel, whatever it is. Yeah, the prequel. But I knew when they started coming out with games and my little residual check started to look like, oh, they ripping us off? What the heck? They got a game and shit? Oh, yeah. Oh, you in the game. I said, uh-oh, I got another check coming and the check didn't come. I was like, God dang it.
All right, we got time for one more question. So right there, Shaun of the Dead in the back.
Rob Bottin had told a story one time about when Norris was on the table and there was a accident with a fireball, and wasn't sure if any of you guys were in that room when that ignited.
You know what? I think that happened when they were shooting the effects stuff. I don't think that happened when we were shooting the live stuff.
But the bottom line with those effects, we did learn how to shoot the flamethrowers in the beginning, but then they came. You know, Mike?
You don't get no more mics.
Hey, you get this for free, so sit down, man. Where y'all get this guy? We're gonna have a drink guy. I have 4 black guys that I probably need. They will deal with you. Anyway. No, but we were shooting the movie, and then somebody said, yeah, you have to run down this hallway, and you're gonna actually have to throw these dynamite sticks in these rooms. And I said, oh, no problem, I gotta do that. But then I saw these things look like cannons that were pointing out on each room, and they were timed, and I had to have the precise timing of throwing them in that room with that fire coming out. And I swear I could feel the heat. If I'd have been 2 or 3 seconds late, barbecue.
One more?
One final comment.
One will barbecue like you.
All right, 2 minutes left. We got one more question over here.
One final comment from a fan.
I just want to say first and foremost, thank you guys for being together. This is the first time ever since the production of John Carpenter's The Thing. As many people from the cast have been here together. Thank you.
So, thank you guys again for taking the time out to do the panel. We really appreciate it. One more time for the Think Pass.
All right, we're gonna have somebody do a group photo. We get a real photo. So,
Group photo up, Josh, where are you? Josh, we're doing that.
Lise, could you take a picture of this?
Entirely too short.
Make sure you get a nice close. Like Obama.
You want to take
could we get one more for the website?
Come on, Lise.
I'm gonna jump in too. Come on.
Yeah, Jason.
You get it, dude?
I better not see none of these on eBay either.
Too late.
A lot of different.
Thank you.
All right, can I get one more for the website for Jason Day? We're gonna have Mike and I jump in real quick, steal your thunder.
Good morning.
Did you get it? How did you get it? Listen, be bold. Go around.
Come on, Lise.
Show right in, man, out of your way.
He doesn't bite, you can jump on in.
Thank you all.
Everybody, thank you again for coming.